right, Home Service Pros, welcome to the Battle Plan Marketing Podcast, episode number 148. Today we have an awesome guest on the show, Mr. Ryan Englin from Core Matters. Works with lots of home service companies on how to bring hiring in-house with proven systems. And if you stick around to the end, he's giving away a free book that will definitely benefit your company. Without further ado, welcome to the show, Ryan.
Mark, thanks for having me.
Appreciate you coming on, man. Spending time sharing the knowledge. Tell us what you do, who you do it for.
Yeah. So companies Core Matters. And what we do is we help companies in the trades, blue collar companies looking for frontline employees, technicians, customer service reps, the ones that they're all struggling with to hire. We help them by implementing the CoreFit hiring system, giving them a bunch of tools and training so that they can make sure that they're out there doing it, making it happen every single day.
Nice. Do you find that these companies traditionally have systems in place right now or no?
I heard that Jimmy's buddy needs a job, so send him on over. Like that's the system. Or, hey, you were late for the second day in a row, so I don't think it's going to work out here. Or, you know what? I thought that you'd be better than you are, so you're fired. Like that's the systems we have in place now.
Yeah, pretty much.
They're just not scalable. They're not sustainable.
Exactly. So how do we hire better people out there? We all have problems with this, pretty much, I would say 99% of the companies out there. So we've interviewed some companies who have systems and they help you do it. I like how you help them bring it in-house. So let's talk about the differences there.
Huge fan of bringing it in-house. I tell people this, we would never hire somebody to go out and interview someone for a first date. We would never say, hey, go have a date with her. And if you guys hit it off, then send her to me and I'll talk to her and see if it's someone I want to spend more time with. We would never do that in the dating world.
I like it. Good analogy. Great analogy.
We do it all day long.
You screen her for me. Yeah,
we're doing it all day long. And then we're wondering why these people aren't working out.
Yeah, and a lot of it is chemistry, right? You get to read that person after when you decide to meet them.
Yeah. I think if you want to hire better people, the reality is you have to become a better employer.
Yeah, exactly. So let's talk to that. What makes a better employer?
Well, I think a lot of it depends on who you're attracting. If you want to attract better people, you have to become the right employer to better people. So let's start there. Let's start with who is the right person? Who is a better person? What are you looking for? And then become the company that person wants to work for. So if you want someone who's a go-getter, if you want someone who follows through on their commitments, well, I want you to take a step back for a second and say, do you present yourself as the kind of company that go-getters would thrive at?
Right.
Odds are you probably don't, which is why you're not getting go-getters. When you say following through on their commitments, I want you to take a step back and say, do I present myself as the kind of company that follows through on commitments? Because if I don't, then I need to take a step back and make that change.
Yeah. So systems, right? If we have systems in place as employers and training SOPs, then we can get them to the point where they do things we want them to do, accomplish the tasks we want them to accomplish in the manner that we want, or they can expedite it. So let's talk about that. So what makes a good employer is what is knowing what they're looking for and systems. Can you add on to that?
Yeah. Be really clear on who you want. That's number one. I use a lot of fishing analogies too. And, when you want to go fishing, the first decision that you need to make makes all other decisions easier is what kind of fish you want to catch. It's going to tell you the gear you need to bring. It's going to tell you the location. It's going to tell you the type of bait, the type of food they're going to be interested in. It tells you everything.
Yeah.
But we often don't think that. What we think is, well, where do I want to go fishing?
Right.
And that's usually the answer I get. Well, that's how we treat recruiting. Well, if I want someone new, I'm just going to go to Indeed. Except people you want probably aren't on Indeed.
Yeah.
So when I made the realization, it was a shift for me. And this was over a decade ago, but recruiting is really a marketing activity.
Yep.
It's not an HR activity. Yet we give it to the HR team And then we're disappointed because we don't get the results we expect.
Right.
And what's the marketing team do? The first time you sit down, they say, tell us about your target customer, your target employee. Let's talk about the target. And then now we need to start putting the right kind of message, the right kind of branding, and everything else in front of those people. Then when they come to us, most job seekers do not want to work for a company that doesn't have their act together.
No, 100%.
But we're often too busy that we wing it. We're just too busy being too busy. And so we wing it. We figure it out and we don't create consistency and we don't really get to go through the whole process. So creating a great experience for people when they show up, I think is more important than having an SOP on how you turn the wrench and fix this piece of equipment. I think it's more important to let's create an experience that people leave talking about and thinking about. They get back to their car and the first thing they do before they even start up the car is they call their spouse and they say, you're not going to believe it. This was so cool. Like, I hope they call me and give me the job. In fact, I'm going to go home and I'm going to follow up with the hiring manager right now because it was such a great experience.
I like that. Yeah.
And then carry that through to employment.
Yeah. So what creates that experience? We're defining our culture. Let's bring that out there. I haven't interviewed in, I don't even know, 40 years. So I don't know. And on the flip side, I've got a small agency and everybody I use are independent contractors. So I don't have this problem that all my clients have. So shame on me. Hence I interview you guys.
That's okay. People ask me all the time, they're like, Ryan, what you do, you could do with contractors and everything else. Why do you have employees? I go, because I want to be able to go through what my clients go through. I want to be able to test the stuff myself and say, look, it worked.
Yeah. 100%.
But I think that if you want to create the right experience, I'm going to go back. This is going to sound like a broken record. You got to know who the right person is. If you know who the right person is, you can create the right experience. For example, I'll go back to the dating analogy for a second. If you know that you want to date someone because you're looking for marriage and you are wanting children and you want to start a family, well, guess what? Having that first date be about the sports team and what you did last weekend and all the superficial stuff, if you're attracting the kind of person that wants a long-term relationship, marriage, and a family, and you talk about things like sports and what you did over the weekend, you're not going to connect. You're not going to create that relationship that you want. But if you go into it saying, hey, I'm just being upfront. I want long-term relationship. I want marriage. I want family. And they're like, oh, me too. Well, guess what the topic of the first date should be?
Right.
Let's talk about the stuff that we both want. And that's what we miss. What we do instead is these people show up and they're like, oh, you can turn the wrench, check. You can drive, check. You've done this before, check. Well, you showed up on time, check. You're hired.
Yeah, we're too
we
easy.
We know nothing about the individual.
Yep, our checklist is too small. Yeah, exactly.
I had one client tell me that they had a 2-step interview process. And I was like, 2 steps? Wow, that's better because most people only have one. And they go, yeah, step 1 is did they show up? And step 2 is can they catch the keys to the truck? And they were joking, but they were serious. Like it's really, that was their interview process.
Yeah, yeah. How many out of your clients? What's the percentage that you think have good training systems in place right now?
None. I mean, training is all school of hard knocks. It's shadowing. It's following someone else.
Yeah.
And I think that the biggest thing that people miss in training is not the training itself. It's the why are we training on this?
Right.
They miss the why. Yeah. We have a client, they're a pretty large client, a couple hundred employees, and they have some of the most robust training I've ever seen. The problem is nobody understands why they're being trained to do this stuff this way. Mm-hmm. And what they feel is, well, corporate is just telling us to do stuff. Like the home office just wants us to do this stuff. And we made a shift and said, why don't we start explaining why they're filling out another form or why they're completing a new screen or why they have to do it this way. And they started explaining the why. And all of a sudden people were like, now I want to know how to do it.
Yeah. 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 100%. As the biggest employee complaint is why, or question, right? Why do I need to do this? Or why do I need to do it this way? Kind of thing. Right.
Yep. Absolutely.
Yeah. So the culture, so the business owner or the business manager, GM, sitting down, explaining the culture of the company, right? So you also have to fit, as Tommy Mello says, your dream has to fit their dream, right? They have to
Mm.
be able to grow. So is that a discussion that should be had in that first interview? Here's my dream. Here's
Yeah.
what's your dream. Do they match?
So I don't know how many of your listeners have heard about Jim Collins' book, Good to Great.
Okay.
Uh, get the right people in the right seat on the bus. Like we've heard that before. Get the
Yep.
right people in the right seat on the bus. And then he talks about now that you have the right people in your leadership team in the right seats, we can figure out where the bus is going. And then he moves on to other concepts. And the last time I checked, any bus has a lot of extra seats on it. Then we've got to put the people that are doing the work on the bus. Well, if they're not excited about where that bus is going, if they
Right.
don't see the benefit to them about the destination of that bus, what happens when there's a detour or a traffic jam or a delay or the bus breaks down? They're going
Right.
to get off the bus and go get on another one. But if they're so excited about where that bus is going, to your point, that my dream aligns with their dream, if
Yep.
that's aligned, they're going to be like, boss, can I get off this bus and help you get it back on the road? Hey, boss,
Yes.
do you mind if I keep the rest of the team engaged while we're sitting here stuck in traffic? They're going to figure out how to keep everybody rallied around this dream or this vision. And it's absolutely something that we talk about, getting alignment on that.
Yeah. Yeah. They're excited to solve problems and take on the issues. Exactly. So how do
Yep.
we get there, Ryan? How do we, what is performance pay? What are the top three things to line up to bring, attract these kind of people?
So I actually don't mind performance pay if you're paying people over and above what they're already worth to your organization.
Right.
I'm not a big fan of do your job and then you get paid.
Right.
Like, if you do your job better than others, you'll get paid more. I'm a big fan of saying, what are the things that are internal to people? Because that's what's going to keep them. Because if all I'm doing is paying them more, guess what? There's someone bigger. There's someone with a larger line of credit, someone willing to go bankrupt faster than me that will pay my people more money.
Hmm.
So what can we give them that's not just money? And all of the research data will tell you this too. The reason that companies, especially in the trades, have to pay more money is because nobody wants the work anymore.
Yep.
Not want to work. They don't want to do the work that you're telling them to do. Because as an industry, we haven't kept up with the times.
Nope.
We still call our people the hands. We still treat them like they're a number or a cog in a machine. We still curse at them when they show up late. We don't care if they feel harassed or belittled we don't care about that stuff because this
Yeah.
is the trades and this isn't how we did it when I was growing up. So I'm not
Right.
going to do it differently. We hold on to that old school mindset. And so the only way we can get people to take the job and come work for a crummy company is to pay them lots of money,
Yeah.
which is what we do. And so if we really want to incentivize and engage people, you need to sit down and you say, what is it they want? How can I help them live their dream? Like you had said, we have clients that will implement things like Financial Peace University and will train their employees how to personally manage their money because most people don't know how to do that.
Nice.
And so they'll bring in an outside expert who has a program and will enroll them and their spouse in this program and say, you're going to learn how to balance a checkbook, how to put away savings, how to pay off debt. You're going to learn that. We're going to teach you that because you know what? Most people want to retire without a bunch of debt. So
Yeah.
why don't we do that? We had one client this was their vision was that every employee retires a millionaire.
Sweet. I
And
like
so
that.
that was their thing. Like, we want you to retire. Now, we're not overpaying the market or anything like that. We're going to teach you how
Right.
to manage your money. We're going to teach you how to live within your means. We're going to teach you, if you want to make more money, how do you create more value in the work that you do? And so
Right.
they had this whole training program all around that.
Right.
So that's one. Another one we see a lot of is people need help with purchasing a home.
Yeah.
People want to know, are there things that they can do with their kids, spend more time with their family? How do you contribute to those goals as their employer and provide value in those areas?
Man, I
It goes a
love it.
lot further than just more pay, because more pay just normalizes things for them and they just go live within the new pay.
Yep.
And over a while, they forget they got a raise
Right. And
raise
now
their
it's
standard.
not enough again.
Yeah, not enough. And they
Yeah.
keep doing it until you say no. And then the other person across the street says, well, I'll pay you $1 more an hour.
Yeah. I like it. I like it. Well, you're showing you care about the person's life and their family and all that, right?
Yeah.
So maybe collectively sit down and go through what are the topics you guys would like to learn about, financial planning, so on and so forth. Is there a conversation that you recommend to have right there?
Well, I think the first thing I recommend is start having conversations with your people, which
Yeah,
most of them don't do. Like, just sit
yeah,
down, conversations.
yeah.
Pretend it's 3 years from now. What do you want your life to look like? And you know
Right.
what most of these guys are going to tell you? I don't know,
Yep.
because no one's ever asked them that
Yep.
question before. Well, now you're asking them. So have a conversation with them. Well, let's talk about it. You're on this path right now. Today, you just became a journeyman. There's a path to become a foreman. When you're a foreman, you get to lead some people. You want to move that, you could go up to being a superintendent, or you could say, hey, I want to be more on the business development side and become an estimator, or do other things. Let's talk to them about career path. And then
All
say,
the
hey,
different. Sorry,
how,
go ahead. Here's all the different positions we have in the company. Which appeal to you? Where would you like to grow into?
yeah.
Yeah.
And then put them on a path for that. Even if it takes 2, 3, 10 years, at
Right.
least people know that you have a plan.
Right. Yeah.
And
Yeah. I
that's
like
important
that.
to them.
Well, the old world way is, I've been around the sun a few times. Looks like you're trailing me a little bit, but you're catching up. Um, the old world way is the dictator way, right? And that just doesn't work anymore, man.
No, it doesn't.
No.
So you want people to care about the business as much as you. As I like to say, if you want them to care about the business as much as you do, care about them as much as you care about the business.
I love that a lot, Brian. Also, like how you talked about when you were marketing, you say who's your, or you're talking to the marketing company, who's your target customer, but we
Hmm.
don't talk about who's your targeted employee, right?
Yeah,
And,
that's a
and
big
going
miss.
back to, don't mean to drop Tommy's name all the time, but Tommy, Mello is talking about always be recruiting, right? So your marketing should always be talking about your team, and you should be highlighting, team members and member of the month, these kinds of things. Any recommendations in that down that
Yeah,
road?
one of the first things we look at when we bring on it, when we start working with someone new, is we do an audit of their website and we do an audit of their online brand and their reputation and everything else. And you know what I always find interesting is that it's easy to find customer testimonials. I
Mm.
know exactly what your customers think of you, or at least the ones you want to share. But you know what I never find is
That's
employee
crazy.
testimonials.
That's crazy.
I never find employee testimonials. Why is it that you don't have employees talking about how great it is to be on your team?
That is so crazy. I didn't even come to my mind either. So touche for you. That's
But
fantastic.
it's
And
super
what
easy to do.
better, that's almost better than a customer testimonial, right? Like
Yeah, you know,
if I'm
you might
reading
have
that
heard
as
of.
a consumer, I'm blown
Oh,
away to hear those employee recommendations. I love working here.
yeah,
That's what I want in the painter who's showing up or whatever, right?
yeah. Gettle used to have an ad. I mean, this is 10 years ago on the radio. I don't know if they still have it or not, but it talked about the quality of the employee that they hire. So when a tech comes over, they're going to make sure that you feel comfortable talking to them. They're going to have their PPE on. They're going to have their boot covers on. They're going to come in. They're going to explain it to you in a way that makes sense, and they get to do this because they have great training. They're paid well, so they don't need to sell you something new. And we give all of our people opportunities to earn paid time off. And so they're talking to the homeowner about the amazing
Yeah.
employees that they have over at Gettle and why you'd want to hire them. But I hear, if I'm a tech, I want great training and good pay and I want all this stuff too. Like, I mean, that marketing piece was able to do double duty for so many years for them.
Yeah. Yeah, I haven't heard that myself, but Gettle's definitely awesome. They got the thing. What's his name's got it dialed in over there,
Ken,
and
yeah.
yeah,
No, he
doing a great.
does. And it's not hard to do. It's just hard to be intentional on because it's not something we're used to. It's like a new muscle memory.
True. Yeah, we got to learn a new process, learn a new way, and like you say, just care about your. Not that they don't, but we're all so busy, right? And you need to stop and take the time. So let's say you and I were doing business, and I'm running a 20 plumber shop. Ryan, how do you get me to stop and slow down and start talking to my employees and figure out what they want in life and how we can help them get there?
Well, I mean, we call it stop the bleeding. It's what we call it. So, like, if we were to start and work together, we would sit down and I would say, okay, where do you feel like you're bleeding when it comes to your team? And it's usually, oh, I can't keep a dispatcher,
Right.
or I always seem to have one or two trucks that I just cannot keep a tech in,
Yeah.
and it's this stuff that's keeping you awake. And I say, okay, if we can solve those problems, can we get you to sit down and take a breath and solve some of the other problems that are actually leading to it, like the root cause of that?
Right.
I can put a guy in a truck. That's easy.
Right.
Keeping the guy in the truck, that's hard.
Exactly.
I can
Yeah.
get you a dispatcher, but getting a dispatcher that makes the techs feel like they're valued and takes care of the customers when there's problems and reschedules, that's hard.
Yeah.
So what
That's
we do is we say, what are the things that are keeping you up at night? Let's get rid of those. So they're no longer distractions. And once those things are gone, even if it's only for a few weeks, now we get a time to breathe, come in and start cleaning up some of the root cause of what's causing these issues.
Yeah, that's really well said. So it's a symptom. So if we find we have a lot of turnover, then it's just a symptom. It's like the medical industry, right? You're going in, they're treating the symptom, very rarely getting to the root cause of whatever the health issue is. Same for our companies, right? We have a lot of things that present themselves as symptoms, really. And if we just are replacing people, that's not if that's happening a lot, that's not our core problem.
I know because it's in a lot of studies that talk about this, that looking for work is very stressful.
Yeah,
It's very stressful to say, hey, I'm going to leave what I know to
right,
jump into something I don't and take a risk for my family. Very stressful.
right.
Most people are about self-preservation. They're not
Yep,
going to jump into a stressful environment just to make an extra dollar an hour.
right. Yeah.
But we lose people all the time for $1 an hour. It's a symptom of a deeper cause, which is why were they open to talking to someone else about another job?
Mm,
It wasn't about the money. It's never about the money. Yet we
yeah,
always think it is. And so what do? We solve the money problem with money, but then it doesn't solve our problem. We're just it's costing us more.
yeah.
So we need to
Well,
look
like you
at
said, they're going
why
to
they
live up to that level of income, and then they have money problem again.
yeah.
So
We
it's
talk
it's all about the culture,
we
showing
teach
you
a
care about where they want to
yeah,
go.
and we teach a process too, especially when you're hiring new people. I don't know if this ever happens to the people you talk to, but they'll make an offer to a tech, a plumber. He's like, yeah, I'm going to take it. This sounds great. And then he calls you 3 days later and says, hey, they offered me more money. I'm going to stay.
Yeah,
And the process we teach our clients is how do you understand what is causing them to leave? Because it's never the money. Oh, my boss doesn't respect me. My boss doesn't treat me well. I got passed up for the promotion. They decided to pull back on paying for my training. They're making me stock my own truck now, right? Like whatever it is, what are these things that are annoying them? If you can find those out, then when they call you and say, hey, they're going to pay me $2 more an hour, you can say, oh, so what'd your boss say when you said you were tired of feeling belittled? What did your boss say when he says, I'm going
mm,
to get you some help to stock your own truck? Like, let's address the reasons that person wanted to leave.
right.
You need to be doing the same thing with your people if they're leaving you. Why are you
Yeah,
leaving? Like, really understand it's not about money. Find out why they're really leaving and fix those problems.
yeah, yeah. There's actually a golden opportunity right there if you can extract the truth out of them, right? Because there's you got a hole in your system somewhere,
Yeah.
or in your attitude or whatever. How you treat people. It
Yeah.
starts there. I would imagine how you treat human beings is the beginning, the core of it. Do you run into a lot of times, Ryan, where you just the operator is the problem? You can't fix the problem.
I mean, sometimes, but more often than not, it's a leadership issue.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
That's usually the issue. It's leadership. It's not the operator. I mean, trust me, there are some people that just got a chip on their shoulder. We had a client who hired somebody, relocated into the area, and they paid him top dollar. I mean, it was like more than $50 an hour they were paying this guy, brand new to the company. Like they just going off of what he told them. And second day on the job, he's working on something and took him twice as long as it should have. And then the next day took him twice as long as it should have. And I'm like, wait a minute, I'm paying this guy top dollar. What's going on? And then so when the field supervisor, service manager asked about it, the guy ripped into him. How dare
Really?
you question me? I got 20 years experience doing that. I know what I'm doing. How dare you question me?
Wow.
Then the owner got involved and he's like, and then the owner got yelled at. And so he called me. He's like, I'm firing the guy. I said, well, hold on, let's see. So we had him go to him, and he went to the operator. And he says, hey man, you're not fast. You're very slow. You're costing me money, and you're treating our people like garbage. Here's what I'm willing to do. You have two choices. Either one, I'm going to bump you down to like 30 something an hour, and you can stay, or you can quit. Your choice. Like those, I'm not paying you what I'm paying you. And the guy's like, I'll stay. And then he went home and he started text messaging and yelling at the service manager for ratting him out to the owner. I'm
Oh
like,
my gosh.
what are you doing?
God.
So needless to say, that guy's not there anymore. So sometimes we just make bad hires. Sometimes it is, it is the tech in the field, but usually we have leadership issues.
Yeah, yeah. And you got to find those people quick and get rid of them. Otherwise, they'll kill your culture. I've seen that happen in the old days, been in companies where one guy or one woman comes in and just destroys the culture really quickly. They might even be, I was in a company once 20 years ago where the top leader, the top sales guy, he would literally make a statement, after the sale, they're dead to me. He was poison, but he was their top sales guy, and they just kept him. And I watched as he just poisoned the entire sales crew. It's just terrible. And then I left the company, but I think they made him the sales manager after that.
I've seen people struggle with that same thing. You got your top performer and they're toxic and they're poisoning the well. And I've had a few times where we've had companies, owners that were able to just say, you know what, you're gone.
Yeah.
And you know what happened? All those other salespeople that were drinking that toxic water, they got better.
Right.
And they went and they blew it out of the water because now you had 5 or 6 people that were performing at the level of the one guy before, but they couldn't perform at that level because it was so toxic.
Yeah, exactly.
But it's so hard to make that shift when you think that one person is the be all end all. And usually they're not.
Yeah. And if they're bringing in, a lot of your top line revenue, it takes some gumption to step up and change the culture in your team there. Exactly.
Absolutely.
So I see you guys have a pretty cool process on your site there, Ryan. Can you explain your A to Z for us, or give a little overview?
Well, I already talked about it a little bit. For us, I'm really focused on outcomes. I like to teach people to fish.
I like it.
I don't want to come fish for you. I mean, I will to stop the bleeding. We already talked about that. But otherwise, I want to teach you and your team how to fish. And so we build the process, we build the systems, and then we come in and we teach your team how to use it. We support them. We help them troubleshoot, really get their mind wrapped around it. It's usually one of the hardest things is how do people wrap their mind around change?
Right.
So that's what we work on. But once we've stopped the bleeding, we have time to breathe. We say, okay, how do we attract better people? By defining better people, putting plans in place, marketing changes, those kinds of things. Then we say, well, now how do we make better hires? By a better interview process. Right? We want to make sure we're making the right decision during the interview. So how do we create an interview system that is objective, measurable, repeatable, scalable, all those things that we want.
Yeah.
And then we got to look at how do we make them top performers? How do we make sure that we're onboarding them well? So if we don't have top performers, then why are we doing all this? Like, it just seems kind of silly that we would hire people that are like, well, they're good enough, We don't want that anymore. Right? We want high quality A players all the time. And then we say, okay, now that we've done all this work, put all this effort into place, how do we keep them engaged? How do we keep them long term? How do we keep them 2, 3, 5, 10 years? How do we make it so that they want to be the next leaders inside the company and running this thing for me when I'm ready to retire?
Yeah. Yeah. Nice. Or sell it. Yeah.
Yeah. And then once you have your internal processes figured out and you can consistently and reliably put people into your process and get great results, then I want you to go back out to the market and start looking for all those people that aren't really looking for work yet. I want to present you as an employer of choice, create a better employer brand, a better reputation, the company that people want to work at. And we've got one client, they're out in Kansas, and they said they did this for a couple of years. They focused on this. And they emailed me a couple of months ago and they said, we have more people coming to us, asking if they can work here. We don't even have open jobs. We don't have enough work for them right now. They're like, but it feels so good to know that we have a pipeline of people that want this.
Takes a little while to put it in place, but eventually, it's the old if you build it, they will come, right? So make it happen. Well, again, marketing your recruiting, right? Marketing your existing employees and stuff.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So take us through, like, what would you say? So how long a process is it normally? It sounds like it would take a while. You were
Takes a little
retraining some
while.
habits and all that. A year, 2 years.
Yeah, 12 to 18 months is what I usually
Yep.
tell people. I mean, if you go in planning 18 months and you're open to the change and your team is on board, we might be able to do it a little bit quicker, but I say you're committed to 18 months. Um,
Nice.
and what's cool though is the way we built the process, because we stopped the bleeding in the first 6, 8 weeks. You got a long runway because we're no longer struggling with I've got empty trucks, or I've got dispatchers, or I've got customer service reps, or I'm missing a service manager. Like, we've stopped that issue.
Mm,
We've solved that problem. And so we can go start building a lot of the infrastructure that is going to get you the long-term results that you're looking for.
I like it. So you're helping them build out an onboarding SOP, for lack of a better term, right? And then it also sounds like you're helping them on the marketing side afterwards to promote the culture of the company, and so not just job wanted kind of thing, but like you were talking earlier, where you're highlighting key employees and such. Yes,
Oh, absolutely. I mean, we call it becoming the employer of choice. Like, if
I like
someone had a choice about where they work, they're going to pick you before they pick anyone else.
nice,
And the
nice.
way we do that is by differentiating you, positioning you in the marketplace as such.
Yeah,
And when you have a system in place that you can trust, when I say this, I can do this. When you trust that system, it becomes really easy to say that. Hey, when you
yeah,
come work here, we're going to help make sure everyone's a millionaire before they retire. Like, when you have the system to do that, it makes it really easy to say that.
right. Yeah, you got to believe it. You got to have yeah,
Yeah,
exactly, the A to Z in place.
absolutely.
So on the back end, if we're promoting the internal culture and employee satisfaction, all that good stuff, employees' ability to dream and reach new heights, we're doing that on social a lot. Then basically, Ryan, you guys are helping on that end.
So we don't actually do the execution on social. Usually our clients have a marketing team in place, but what we're
Okay,
doing is we're helping them with the ads, the messaging, the targeting, more of a consultative approach than it is the doing
beautiful.
approach.
Yeah,
Uh, but there's plenty of marketing experts out there that can do that stuff.
yeah,
But we help with imagery and everything else. What I find is the raw, organic, natural stuff does a lot better than the high production value and fancy, flashy stuff.
yep.
Uh, and so what we're looking for is, how do we get your people to want to promote what they're doing and promote their dreams and talk about the
Mm.
value that they've gotten from you? Like, that's the hard part. That's where we
Yeah.
come in and we help with that.
Well said. That's the part you got to start with. Nurture, and yeah, you got to get them to believe that before you can promote it. Yeah, 100%. So,
Absolutely.
but it sounds like you might, depending on the situation, might communicate with their existing marketing company and help them dial in
Absolutely.
that messaging, redirect it a little differently, or so on and so forth.
Absolutely. Yep.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. What would you say, Ryan, are the top three core whatever instilled in a company that are necessary to attract great employees?
Yeah. So a lot of the stuff that we talk about when it comes to company culture is at the point now where I think it feels very cliche. And we hear core values and vision and purpose and mission statement. That's very cliche stuff. But what it really boils down to is three things. Number one, what's acceptable behavior? How do we behave? How do we think? When we think something, what do we do about it? When we have a problem, how do we challenge it? What's acceptable behavior?
Mm.
And remember, people don't leave jobs, they leave people.
Yep.
And they usually leave people because they don't like the behaviors
Yep.
of the people. They don't feel like their behaviors align. So get really crystal clear. I mean, just incredibly clear on what acceptable behavior looks like.
Mm.
Define it, document it, share it, promote it, hold people accountable to it, including yourself. It's really easy to say, hey, these rules are for you, not for me. All right.
Right.
Get really clear on what acceptable behavior looks like. And then I mean, you already said the one, their dream aligns with my dream. I mean, I absolutely agree with that. That is just paramount to making sure you have a really effective recruiting system, because no one wants to get on a bus that's not going where they want to go.
Right. Yeah.
But all the time people get on the bus because the bus driver is like, hey, $15 more an hour than everybody else, or $35 an hour, or $5,000 signing bonus. And they're like, I'll get on that bus. I don't see any other buses around. And so, anytime you're doing that, you're getting the wrong people on the bus, trust me, unless you're hiring a highly sales-driven organization where people are motivated by money. I know Tommy talks about that a lot, right? A lot of his techs are motivated by the money and the $1 Million Club and the fun stuff. If you're building an organization like that, you could probably use things like money to attract good people,
right?
Especially if there's a way that they have control over it, right? Not just to show up and they get it, but they can actually earn more by doing more.
Right.
I love that. But if you're in the construction world, it's really hard because there's not a lot of sales opportunities in construction.
Yeah.
So do our dreams align? Or like I say, are you going where they want to go?
Yep.
Right. And then the third one is just really understanding why. I talked about this in the training, but really understand why. Not just why they have to train or learn something, why there's a new process, or why we're going to change the way we do things, but maybe it's why is it that we do what we do? Why do we get out of bed every single morning and do this? Out of all the things that we could choose to do, why own a plumbing company? Why be a plumber? Why work in customer service? Like, why do we do that? And figure that out. I tell owners all the time, there are a lot easier, less stressful, less headache-inducing ways to make money than to own a contracting business.
Yeah.
But we do it because we have a deep-seated why and we're connected to that.
Yep. Love the work, love the people.
Yeah, exactly.
Yep.
But be really clear on that and communicate it. And then recruit, hire, and retain people that align to that, that are doing it for the same reason you are. Those are the three things I would say are just paramount to making sure that you've got a great recruiting and retention system in place. Yeah,
those are three really important things. And that number one behavior is like, if you put up with too much in the early, and we get it, you're managing people. You don't want to, most people don't want to confront other people. We don't like, conflict. So we avoid it a little bit. And if we do that too long, I've seen it happen. We've all have, right? Probably everybody on earth has worked in a place where one person, like I was saying earlier, spoils that culture. And if you let that behavior go on, then that culture, that's going to permeate through your whole company.
Yeah, right? Absolutely.
And on the flip side, if you encourage great behavior and training and instill the why to the behavior, now you got the flip side of that, right?
It's just as contagious. Yep.
Yeah. How about yourself, Ryan? What gets you out of bed in the morning? Why run the company? What do you love about the business?
I mean, my story is founded in watching my dad be an owner operator and working the crazy hours and watching a business own him and consume him, and then meeting so many other people that are hardworking men and women in the trades that are doing this every day to make it happen, to create infrastructure. Like, I just have such a passion for the people out there making it happen. And I see too often the business consumes them.
Yeah.
And it's not because they're bad business owners or because they're bad leaders or bad managers. They just don't know any better.
Yep.
And so there's nobody really out there in this space that's teaching them how to put a better system in place so that they can remove themselves from the business and focus on the most important things. There's nuggets. There's here how to be a better leader, how to be a better communicator, how to be a better salesperson, how to be a better marketer. But no one's saying, here's how you recruit and retain the best people.
Yeah.
There are people out there saying, I'll do it for you.
Right.
But that's like hiring the person to go on dates for you.
Yeah.
It doesn't work.
Exactly. You sparked on something there I think everybody has a problem with, right? So it's rare indeed where the business owner can walk away from the business and it runs itself, right? It takes a lot to make that happen. I'm not even in a position making that happen in my business, trying to get there, and it's not easy, right?
Yeah. It takes a lot of trust. And
Takes a lot of trust. It takes a lot of skill set that maybe we don't have initially, and you got to put all those systems in place while you're running the day to day, right?
yeah,
But I think it's super important, Brian. So because I'm willing to bet most operators feel overwhelmed. This business owns me. I can't take today off. The
yeah,
kids are sick or they need to go somewhere, and I would really like to do this, that, or the other with them, but I can't. I've got to run this business 6 days a week or whatever.
yeah.
Um, so what's step one to get the hell out of that system?
I think step one is make the decision that you're willing to fight for it. I mean, you
Yeah,
have to be committed to the fight because it's going to get harder before it gets easier.
yeah,
This is what we tell all of our clients when they start working with us. It's going to get harder. Like it's going to feel like you're getting the same results and you're doing the same thing, but trust me, we're making progress. But it's going to get harder because we're doing things you've never done before.
yeah, yeah.
And it's going to feel weird and you're not going to like it. And we've got one client that she'll text me and she's like, I have an interview coming in. I don't know what to say. She's never had this before, but it's because she's learning something new and
Right.
she's got different thought forms. And so her old way is conflicting with the new way. And it's a challenge.
Yeah,
And so it gets harder before it gets easier. But if you're committed to that outcome of owning a business that you are not in, if you're committed to the outcome, you can make it happen.
yeah. I agree. And the keys are what you're doing. So hiring the right people, starting with who you're looking for, and then maybe using a mentor for business operations in general. We've interviewed several consultants and stuff out there. I've spent the last like 18 months transitioning my company from labor intensive to software intensive,
Mm.
less labor, trying to put systems in place. It's taken a year and a half. I'm just now starting to come out of that, and it was a tough year and a half. I will agree. So
Where
it was tough to do both. You had to put in a lot more time, and it was very uncomfortable. Like you said, I was crossing into territory I'm not used to.
Yeah.
So all
Yeah.
well said. All well said.
Thank you.
So step one is be willing to make the leap and reflect upon where you're at.
And be committed to making it happen,
Yeah,
even when it gets hard.
yeah. Because on the other side is a much better life for you, your employees, much more copacetic life, more peaceful. I'm starting to get there. I'm starting to feel it a little
We
bit.
got one client, he tells me, he goes, every time I work less than 40 hours a week, he goes, I feel like I'm stealing from the company.
Yeah, yeah, exactly, exactly.
I'm like, you do that a lot. He's like, oh yeah, it feels great.
Keep stealing more. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Time, half days, or whatever. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. That's the goal, right? For everybody is to eventually, well, make the people who are working with us huge successes, all right? Make them happy and watch their family. And there's probably, for most of us, there's no better return on investment than that. You can't put a value on watching people grow and feel happy and buy houses, like you were saying. So I love that stuff. And Tommy Mello talked about that too. Having those programs, help them learn financing, help them learn. So these are things most operators wouldn't even think about, I think.
Yeah.
Um,
Absolutely. It's hard to think about that when you're in the mix, when you're putting out the fires, when you're waist deep in a fire, it's really hard to think about that kind of stuff,
yeah, yeah.
which is why we come in and we put out the fires and stop the bleeding right away.
Yeah, that's awesome. Ryan,
And
before we close out, anything you want to touch on that I didn't bring up at all? The
and we
floor is
talked
yours, sir.
we talked about a lot today. I
I
think if
try,
there's
trying to learn your business. And again, I don't have I'm not deep in the weeds like my clients are, right? So
yeah,
I don't have the problem as much.
I think the one thing that I want everybody to get out of this is that anybody you have on your team, anybody you have on your team, they understand fundamentally, they understand that you're all in the same boat together. And just because you don't have the answers doesn't mean they're going to have the answers either. But by including them in these conversations and in this process and having conversations with them and asking them for your help and support, it's amazing what it'll unlock. We interview teams all the time and we say, hey, tell us about your employee referral program. And the employees will be like, I don't think we have one. And the owners are like, We have one. We've been talking about it every month for 6 months. And I was like, just because you think you have one doesn't mean that your people do. But
Wow.
we think that, well, they heard us. I'm like, they're hearing that and 100,000 other things. Plus, then you got to throw their personal life in it. Sit down and have a conversation with them. Make sure they know. Make sure they understand. Tell them you need help. People would rather have you come and say, I need your help,
Yeah.
than watch you fumble through it. They know.
Yep.
They know. And I'll tell you this, one of the things that comes out, especially in the service side, if you've got a lot of guys that are working crazy hours because you're short staffed, often they're going to think, you know what? My boss doesn't care about me. He's watching me work these hours. He knows it's causing problems at home, and I don't see him doing anything about it.
Mm.
Meanwhile, you're in your office and you're working crazy nights and weekends, and you're just running like that duck that's gliding over the water. Your feet are going a million miles because you are working to solve the problem. The problem is you're doing the wrong things.
Mm.
But you want credit for it. They got to know. Tell them, hey, I'm really struggling. I want to get you out of all that OT. Do you got a friend? You got a buddy? Like, got any ideas? How can we go out and get some new people? Like, really embrace your team. And it's an easy way to start these conversations. It's an easy way to build trust. It's an easy way to start having that communication, that healthy communication. Ask your team for help. You'd be surprised how many of them will step up and help.
Man, I love that. I love that. Humanizes the whole thing. And
Sure does.
you're not coming from a point of weakness where a lot of people would think that was happening.
Yeah.
It's a source of strength. That's how
Absolutely.
you can open up that door to great employees and them understanding. What do you think about talking about finances every once in a while, Ryan? Like, hey, here's the quarter we had.
Yeah.
Right? Let them
Yeah.
in on what it takes to run a business.
Yeah. I mean, there are books out on having what they call open book management. I mean, there's entire learning tracks about that.
Yeah.
And I think that it's important. I think that most owners choose not to do it because they're afraid
Right.
of what they're going to think. But when you have healthy relationship and you've got healthy employees, like they understand business, they want you to have a good bottom line because that's security for them.
Yeah. Yeah.
They want.
Yeah.
And I'm not a huge fan of showing somebody the P&L and the balance sheet and saying, hey, let's go through it line by line, because most people aren't going to understand it. Like, most owners don't understand it.
Right.
But I am a fan of saying, hey, you know what? Revenue's up 37% year over from last year. Or, hey, we got profit up 2 points. Like, thank you guys for really helping us on the profitability side. You helped us with waste. And I mean, let them know the impact they're having on your business. Absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah. Sales are up, and here's whatever, performance bonuses are available. Waste is down, expenses are cut. Great ideas you guys came up with. Here's the bonus applied to that.
Absolutely.
Right? Give them that room to breathe, that room to dream, like you were saying.
Yep.
Awesome. Great stuff, Ryan. How our listeners find you guys and Core Matters?
Yeah. So corematters.com is our website. You can learn all about our process, a lot of stuff we talked about. We have a lot of free information, education, that sort of stuff on the website. You can also find me, Ryan Englin, on LinkedIn, very active there. But for those listening right now, if you're interested in learning more about the complete process, the Core Fit hiring system, everything that we talked about and so much more than what we talked about today, I wrote a how-to book. Really outlines the entire process. And I'd love to give it away free to your listeners. If they go to corematters.com/free book, only thing I ask is for them to help me subsidize shipping and handling a little bit. Happy to sign a copy, send it out to you, give you the blueprints for creating a system that will transform your business.
That's beautiful. Thank you. Very generous of you, sir.
Absolutely.
Awesome. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Ryan, you're great. Good luck to you, sir.
Thank you.